Hello guys and welcome to the video. To start Android development, you should download and install some tools. But before that, it would be better you know what these tools are and how they actually work. So first of all, let me introduce these tools and then I'll teach you how to download and install them. The Android development tools that we need are IDE, Kotlin plugin, Android SDK, and JDK. IDE, that stands for Integrated Development Environment, is a software that helps developers to write and test applications. This software usually includes code editors, test tools, and compilers to make developing easier. For example, an IDE with syntax highlighting tool helps the developer to identify code structure faster. Or IDEs usually have error detection tool that draws a red line under your mistakes so you'll be aware of them. Android Studio is the official and the most famous IDE which is used for Android development. Okay, another tool that we need to develop Android apps is the Android SDK. Android SDK stands for Software Development Kit. Android SDK includes a debugger, required libraries to build Android apps, documentation, sample projects with source code, and emulator. An emulator is a virtual Android device. When you're developing Android apps, you'll need to run and test the app repeatedly to make sure you've got the same performance and appearance as you have in your mind. Also, you can use real Android devices to test apps, but the emulator has an advantage. It lets you test Android apps in many different sizes and versions to make sure whether they work properly or not. As I said, Android SDK has its own emulator, but you can also use other emulators like UWave or Genymotion. Note that Android SDK helps Android Studio in the background. For example, it's Android SDK that tells Android Studio which user code is wrong and Android Studio must underline it. Okay guys, also we need to have a Kotlin plugin to ensure Android Studio supports Kotlin. Kotlin is a new programming language from JetBrains. It's a simple yet powerful language. If you ask me why Kotlin over Java, I'll answer because Kotlin fixes a series of issues that Java suffers from. One of these issues in Java is null pointer exception or NPE that is called the $1 billion mistake. NPE was called a $1 billion mistake by Tony Hoare, the creator of NPE. You can search to know more about it, but the point is that Kotlin addresses the NPE by using its built-in null safety system. I'll teach you about it throughout the course. And JDK. JDK or Java Development Kit is another tool that we need to develop Android apps. Note that Kotlin codes compile down to Java bytecodes. So that's why we need to have JDK to develop Android apps with Kotlin. Okay. Now you're familiar with these tools and it's time to teach you how to download and install them. So open your browser and navigate to developer.android.com/studio. In this page, it will detect your operating system and show you the Android Studio download button based on it. You can use Android Studio on various operating systems including Windows, Mac, and Linux. Here's a list of hardware and software requirements. A key point not mentioned here is that you can use SSD instead of hard disk because it can dramatically speed up the Android Studio and emulators. Okay, let's click on this button and click on Download Android Studio for Windows. After download ends, launch the .exe file. Note that this file includes the Android Studio IDE, Android SDK, the Kotlin plugin, and JDK. Okay, double click on it. Installing the Android Studio takes just a few clicks. Click Next, make sure this item is checked, and you can accept this default path or change it, and then click Next and install. It takes a few minutes to complete installation of Android Studio. Okay. Congratulations, you successfully installed Android Studio on your system. Now you have the essential tools to develop your Android apps.